This past year, thousands of people on at least 9 cruise ships have been hit by what's known as the Norwalk-like virus. We sent Matt Mahar on a cruise to check out sanitary conditions on board. He didn't get sick, but some of what he found may upset your stomach. Here's today's headline story.
For tens of thousands of Americans, it's a dream vacation. A cruise on the high seas, sun, romance, and around-the-clock feasting. But for many, a mysterious affliction called the Norwalk virus has made the sailing not so smooth.
I absolutely the worst stomach pains, vomiting, diarrhea, the works.
It got to the point where I couldn't bend over anymore, and I held on to the towel rack to hold me up.
The Disney magic and Holland America's Rhine Dam and Amsterdam were even taken out of service for a week so they could be completely disinfected. The cruise lines say infected passengers bring the virus on board, and despite their best efforts, it quickly spreads. But is enough being done to prevent illnesses on board? We wanted to take a look. So in December, I boarded Carnival Cruise Line's Fascination, 10 days after it was hit by the virus, which sickened more than 200 passengers and crew members. Accompanying me was food safety expert Dr. David Nash of the American Food Safety Institute.
Well, let's take a look here.
The Fascination passed its last official sanitation inspection by the Centers for Disease Control in July, but government tests take place in port, sometimes with no passengers on board.
Hope it's cooked.
Nash says the ship should always be inspected at sea when they're filled with passengers. And that's what we did. We tested for dangerous bacteria and other microorganisms.
I sterilize these tweezers with alcohol and let them air dry.
We collected and tested 2 water samples and 18 food samples, like this salmon from the buffet and these salads from room service. We also swabbed some food contact surfaces. We'll tell you how these tests turned out in a moment. But there's something else we wanted to know. Had previous outbreaks on the Fascination changed the lifestyle on board this cruise?
If the virus was a threat on this cruise, we sure wouldn't know anything about it. From the time we boarded in Miami, we didn't hear one word about the virus, and we received no communication as how to avoid it. And few of the passengers that we talked to seemed the least bit concerned.
Did you do anything like not shake hands with people or
No.
not touch the poker chips or anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
So once you were on board, it was pretty much out of your mind?
It was, yeah, out of my mind, out of sight, out of mind, you know.
In fact, cruise life seemed normal and fun. One thing was very clear. The Fascination's crew was working hard to keep the ship clean, and the kitchen seemed spotless. Our expert was at first very impressed.
The cleanliness of this vessel is excellent.
But it turns out the ship was far from perfect.
Doesn't seem too hot, does it?
What didn't our expert like? Some foods like hot dogs and hamburgers not served hot. Our stateroom vanity with visible dirt. And a curly black hair that wasn't ours in this dessert.
The hair was sticking out of the souffle when it was served to me.
Other problems? Bartenders repeatedly handling barware and drink ingredients with bare hands. Public bathrooms with some empty soap dispensers. And look at this. What Nash says is mold on the ice dispenser.
You just don't have to look very hard to see some pretty unsanitary conditions.
Also troubling to Nash were the unseen ways germs might spread. Watch as this cook mixes an old batch of spaghetti with a new one.
That's a common mistake that a lot of people make is, just mixing some new food in with the old food.
And Nash says there should be signs warning passengers to get a clean glass or new plate every time they go to the beverage dispenser or buffet.
So they should not just be allowing people to take a new plate every time they go back to the buffet. They should be insisting on it.
Every time you eat, your saliva gets on your fork, gets on your plate. You go back to that buffet line. Your saliva is going to get on that serving spoon and put back and mixed with everyone else's saliva. I know it sounds quite distasteful, but the point is, this is how disease is spread.
Officials at Carnival who declined to do an on-camera interview say the mixing of old and new foods and the temperatures Dr. Nash recorded are not violations of U.S. sanitation or food codes. But what did our test show? We shipped our samples to HML Labs in Indiana. First, the good news. The water samples were satisfactory, and our food and surface test detected no salmonella or listeria, which can cause food poisoning. But Nash says the results of some of our other tests are disturbing.
There's no question that the sanitation can be approved. There's no question. This is not a debatable issue.
Out of 21 samples, 2 tested positive for a strain of Staphylococcus aureus that can cause food poisoning. 4 tested positive for E. coli, and 3 for a nasty bug called fecal streptococcus. While we tested for bacteria, Nash says our findings show how easily a virus like Norwalk can be spread.
In your opinion, what do these test results mean?
There's definitely a breakdown in the food handling or the food safety process.
In a statement to Inside Edition, Carnival took issue with many of Dr. Nash's conclusions and questioned his expertise on cruise ship sanitation. The company says its food handling and sanitation is strictly and effectively monitored by the CDC. The company maintains that the inspections are so intensive and detailed that few land-based restaurants would pass.
But Nash says what we found is worse than what he would expect from many restaurants. He says a cruise ship where people are in close contact for an extended period of time should be held to a much higher standard.
Anyone could slip up a little, but I have to say in this environment where we know there's a risk that people have to be that much more vigilant and have to be that much more careful.
Carnival also says their fleet has a positive CDC inspection record and that their ships provide one of the cleanest and most sanitary vacation environments available, end quote. For more information about our report and some food safety tips, just go to our website, InsideEdition.com.